This is Mr. Obi. He sold everything he has, including his house, just to send his 2 daughters to school. He became homeless, slept on the streets, roadside, marketplace, just for the sake of the love and sacrifice he made for his daughters. Even though people warned him not to waste his resources on mere female children that would one day get married and forget him, but he disagreed with them, saying, children are not to be loved or hated because of their gender. Every child is a blessing from God, regardless of their gender. Sit, relax, grab your popcorn. Let's go through Mr. Obi's journey together. In the heart of the noisy Onitsha market, under a crooked blue umbrella, sat Obi, a shoemaker. His hands were rough, his clothes worn out, but his heart was gentle. Every morning, before the sun stretched his arms across the sky, Obi was already hammering worn-out shoes, stitching broken sandals, and polishing faded boots. His dream was simple: to feed his family and give his twin daughters a future better than his own. Obi loved his wife, Chidimma, like a man loves his last breath. She was beautiful, once the queen of his youth, the sparkle in his small, struggling world. When she gave birth to twin girls, Kamsi and Kachi, he cried tears of joy. To him, they were not just daughters, they were miracles. Every evening after the market closed, he would rush home, carrying roasted corn or small toys for his little girls. But life was not kind to Obi. Poverty was a stubborn guest that refused to leave. Their roof leaked when it rained. Their meals were sometimes just garri and water. And slowly, Chidimma's smile began to fade. At first, she complained about the leaking roof. Obi patched it. Then, she complained about the broken chairs. Obi borrowed money to fix them. Then, she sighed about the neighbors, how they looked down on them. I didn't marry to suffer like this, Obi, she would say, her voice heavy with bitterness. Obi would look at her with pleading eyes. Be patient, my wife. I am trying for you, for our girls. But patience was a cloth Chidimma could no longer wear. One evening, a black jeep with tinted windows parked near Obi's shop. From the corner of his eyes, Obi saw Chidimma laughing with a man dressed in gold chains and shiny shoes. His heart tightened, but he shook the feeling away. She's just talking, he told himself. That night, he worked late, fixing 20 shoes instead of 10. He wanted to surprise her with some extra money, maybe even buy her a small gold earring. When he got home, the house was silent, too silent. Kamsi, Kachi, he called. Small feet pattered into the living room. 2 sleepy faces stared at him. Where is your mother? He asked. The girls shrugged, hugging their tiny teddy bears. On the kitchen table, he saw a piece of paper folded neatly. His hands trembled as he picked it up. Obi, I cannot continue like this. I deserve a better life. I have left. Take care of the girls. Obi sank to his knees. Gone? Just like that. He looked around the small cracked walls of his home. The home he had tried so hard to build with love. It wasn't enough. The twins crawled into his arms, sensing the fear in the air. Obi hugged them tightly, fighting back the screams rising in his throat. That night, as the rain drummed on the leaking roof, Obi sat awake, rocking his daughters. The walls whispered loneliness. The wind carried the smell of betrayal. Obi realized something painful that night. He was now alone against the world. The days after Chidimma left were the hardest of Obi's life. He moved like a ghost through the bustling markets, his eyes hollow, his heart heavy. People watched him from a distance, some with pity, others with scorn, but nobody dared to say anything at first. Then the whispers began. His wife left him because of poverty. A woman selling tomatoes said, laughing with her friends. He gave birth to only girls. No male child to carry his family name. Another trader added. 2 useless daughters, some muttered under their breaths. Obi heard every word, every single one, but he kept stitching shoes, kept hammering holes, kept breathing, because 2 little souls were depending on him. At night, when he got home, he would sit under the broken ceiling, watching the moonlight pour through the holes in the roof. His daughters would crawl up beside him, their tiny arms wrapped around his waist. "Daddy, where is mommy?" Kamsi would ask, her big eyes searching his. Obi would smile, a painful smile that didn't reach his heart. "She went on a journey," he would whisper. "She loves you very much." He refused to poison their hearts with bitterness. But in his own heart, a quiet war was raging. One Sunday afternoon after church, some elders came to visit him. Gray-haired men, their faces carved with the wisdom and pride of the village. They sat in Obi's little living room, drinking water from cracked cups. "Obi," the elders began, "you have tried, but you are a man. You cannot raise 2 girls alone. Remarry," another said, nodding his head wisely. "A good woman will take care of you and the children." Obi sat quietly, staring at his collapsed hands. Finally, he spoke. "No." The elders looked at each other, surprised. "No?" the elders repeated. "Why not?" Obi lifted his eyes. There was a fire burning there, a gentle but fierce flame. "I will not bring a strange woman into my daughters' lives," he said. "I will not let anyone treat them like outsiders in their own home. They are my hearts. I will raise them myself." The elders sighed. "Your head is strong like a goat," one muttered under his breath as they left. The mockery wasn't after that. Women in the market would whisper loudly when he passed. "Look at him, father of girls. Who will inherit his name? All this suffering for girls that will marry and live one day." Obi said nothing. Each insult was like a blade slicing through his pride, but he wrapped his pain tightly around his heart, protecting it like armor. When his daughters needed new school shoes, he went without food to buy them. When they needed books, he worked late into nights under a dim kerosene lantern, sewing broken sandals and old slippers. Sometimes, he sat awake until morning, wondering how he would pay school fees. But every time he saw their innocent faces, their sleepy smiles, he found the strength to continue. One rainy evening, after a long miserable day, Obi sat by his little stove boiling beans for dinner. Kamsi and Kachi were coloring pictures with broken crayons. Out of nowhere, Kachi looked up and said, "Daddy, when we grow up, we will buy you the biggest house in the world." Obi laughed, a real laugh, deep and pure. "My queens," he said, pulling them into his arms, "you already give me more than the world." At that moment, Obi made a silent vow. No matter what it cost him, he would protect his daughter's dreams. He would walk barefoot if he had to. He would face the laughter, the gossip, the hunger, anything, because love is not just a word. It is a lifetime of sacrifice, whispered in the dark, and Obi was ready to pay the price. The years rolled by like slow cats on a muddy road. The world changed, the seasons turned, but Obi's life remained the same. Work, struggle, and love. Kamsi and Kachi were growing fast. They no longer needed him to tie their shoelaces or wipe their noses. Instead, They started helping him after school. They would rush to the market, sitting beside him under his crooked blue umbrella, helping to polish shoes and arrange slippers. Their laughter was music in the dusty market air. Even the harshest traders softened when they saw them. Obi, your daughters are beautiful. Sharp girls, well-mannered children. Obi would nod proudly, wiping the sweat from his forehead with the sleeve of his shirt. "Na God," he would say humbly. But deep inside, he was bursting with pride. At night, their little home came alive with dreams. By the dim light of a kerosene lamp, the girls would spread their battered textbooks across the floor. "Daddy," Kamsi said one night, her eyes shining, "I want to be a doctor." "A doctor?" Obi repeated, smiling. "Yes," she said. "I want to heal people. I want to save lives." Kachi jumped up, not to be left behind. "Me too. I want to be a doctor too," she said, raising her small hands in excitement. Obi laughed, pulling them close. "Then, be the best doctors this world has ever seen," he whispered, kissing their foreheads. In that dark room with cracked walls and leaking roofs, dreams were being born. Dreams bigger than hunger, bigger than poverty, bigger than pain. But the outside world was not as kind. As the girls entered their teenage years, the whispers returned sharper, louder, crueler. "See this Obi, still struggling with 2 female children. Why waste money sending girls to school? They will marry and forget you. Look for a way and give birth to a boy, not girls." Even some of Obi's old friends tried to reason with him. "Obi, listen to advice. You are suffering yourself. Why not marry them off to a rich man, collect bride price, and rest?" Obi looked at them, tired but unbending. "My daughters are not for sale," he said slowly, like judge pronouncing a verdict. "They are my children, not commodities." The friends laughed and shook their heads. "This man is crazy," one of them muttered. But Obi didn't care. Every evening, he sat with his girls, helping them pronounce big English words, helping them with difficult mathematics, even when he barely understood it himself. Sometimes, he would doze off while pretending to know what he was reading. The girls would cover him with an old wrapper, giggling softly. "Our daddy is the best teacher," they would whisper. And in those small, hidden moments, Obi found the strength to keep going. Then came the day the letters arrived. It was a hot afternoon. Obi was fixing the sole of a customer's boot when 2 envelopes arrived from the postman. The girls ran all the way from school, their uniform dusty, their face flushed with excitement. "Daddy, Daddy," they cried, waving the letters in the air. Obi's hands shook as he opened them. 2 admission letters, 2 offers to study medicine at the best university in the state. He sat back, overwhelmed. He wanted to laugh. He wanted to cry. He wanted to dance in the market square. God had heard him, but joy quickly turned to fear. School fees, accommodation, feeding, books, medical kits, transportation. It wasn't small money. Obi sat awake all night, staring at the ceiling, his heart heavy, his mind racing. How would he send both of them to university? He had barely enough to feed them now. How could he pay for both girls? The voices in the market returned in his mind. Marry them off. Girls doesn't need education. It is waste of money. For a moment, despair wrapped itself around him like a cold, wet cloth. But then, he looked at the 2 girls sleeping peacefully beside him, so full of hope, so full of dreams. And he knew he would fight for their future, even if it cost him everything. He would not let poverty steal their dreams, the way it had stolen his, not while he still had breath in his body. One day, Obi sat outside his little house, staring into the empty streets. The twins were inside, getting ready for their first day at the university. Their voices floated to him, full of laughter, full of life. But inside Obi's heart, there was a storm. He had no money for their tuition fees, no money for hostel accommodation, no money for textbooks, white coats, or medical tools. His girls had gotten admission, but the door to their future remained tightly locked. For days, Obi moved like a shadow through the market. He fixed shoes with trembling hands. He stitched sandals with bloody eyes. People noticed his sadness. "Obi, why you dey look like who lose cow?" a meat seller asked one morning. Obi just smiled weakly and continued hammering soles. Inside, he was crumbling. At night, he sat by the candle lights, counting the few crumpled notes he had managed to save over the years. It wasn't enough, not even close. Then, one night, Obi sat outside his house, watching the stars blink in the dark sky. The wind carried the smell of roasting corn from afar. He thought of his late father, the man who had given him this house, the only thing he truly owned. Selling it would mean becoming homeless, sleeping in the streets, facing shame, facing mockery. But as he thought about his daughters, Kamsi with her wild dreams, Kachi with her stubborn hope, he knew there was no choice. He would sell the house, he would give them wings, even if it meant clipping his own. The next morning, Obi wore his only clean shirt and went to a land agent. The man looked at him with surprise. "You want to sell your house? That's your only property." Obi nodded slowly. "My daughters must go to school." The agent shook his head in disbelief. "People won't understand this. They will call you a fool." Obi smiled sadly. "Let them call me what they want. As long as my girls go far, I don't care." Within a week, the house was sold. The money was just enough to pay the school fees, buy textbooks, rent small hostels near the university, and leave a little for feeding. When Obi handed the girls their admission letters and small envelope filled with money, he smiled so wide it hurt. "My queens," he said, holding their hands, "go and shine, go and conquer." The girls hugged him tightly, tears rolling down their cheeks. "We will make you proud, Daddy," they cried. Obi didn't tell them where he would sleep. Obi didn't tell them where he got the money. He didn't tell them that he sold their home. He didn't tell them that after they left, he would have nowhere to lay his head. Some sacrifices are made in silence. Some loves are too deep for words. That evening, after dropping his daughters at the bus park, Obi returned to the market. He dragged two broken wooden benches together under his shoemaking table and laid down. That was his new bed. The cold night wrapped around him like a wet cloth. Mosquitoes sang bitter songs in his ears. People passing by stared and shook their heads. See Obi, the shoemaker, from house owner to street rats. He is suffering because of female children. He is a fool. Obi heard it all, but he closed his eyes and smiled, because in his heart, he saw two doctors in white coats, two daughters standing tall, two futures burning bright, and he knew it was worth it. Every tear, every insult, every night under the stars, it was worth it. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, the months into long, dragging years. Obi lived like a ghost in the busy markets. By day, he repaired shoes under his small umbrella. By night, he slept under the old wooden table, covering himself with a torn wrapper when the cold became too much. Rain would sometimes beat him at night, The leaking umbrella was no protection. During the Harmattan, his sleeves cracked and bled from dryness. His bones ached from sleeping on hardwood. Yes, he never once complained. Each time he felt weak, he would bring out an old photograph of Kamsi and Kachi, the one he took on their first day at university. He would stare at it, his heart swelling with pride and sorrow. "My daughters," he would whisper, "you are my reason to live." The market people had long stopped mocking me. Now, they just shook their heads and sighed whenever they saw me. "He is crazy," a paper seller said one afternoon. "He sold his house for the sake of his daughters. One day, these same girls will marry and forget him," another man shouted from across the street. But Obi didn't answer. He just smiled, a quiet, tired smile, and kept stitching shoes. Inside him, a voice kept whispering, "Hold on, Obi, hold on. They will come back. They will remember." Sometimes, loneliness would crawl into his chest at night, heavy like a rock. He missed hearing their laughter in the house. He missed seeing Kamsi sitting at the corner reading aloud. He missed Kachi teasing him and calling him small daddy. The nights were the hardest. When the markets closed and everyone went home to warm meals and cozy beds, Obi stayed behind alone, cold and hungry. He would look up to the stars and talk to God. "Please watch over them," he would whisper. "Keep them safe. Give them success. Let me live long enough to see them make it." His prayers were simple, not for riches, not for fame, just for his daughters to rise, to achieve the dreams they planted under the broken roof of their old house. Time passed. Many who mocked him in the beginning forgot about him. New traders came to the market, new faces, new stories, but Obi remained like an old tree, stubbornly refusing to fall. Each year, he grew thinner. His hair grayed completely. His back bent a little more. Some days, he barely made enough to eat. Sometimes, he would go 3 days without a real meal, surviving only on garri and the hope beating faintly in his chest. But still, he waited. Still, he believed. One afternoon, as he sat repairing a customer's shoes, a young man approached him. He was wearing a neat shirt and polished shoes. "Good afternoon, sir," the man said. Obi looked up and smiled weakly. "Good afternoon, my son," he replied. The young man hesitated, then said, "I just want to tell you, your story inspires us. Many of us are watching." Obi blinked, surprised. He didn't know that anyone noticed him anymore. He didn't know that his silent suffering had become a silent lesson to the world. The young man gave him a bottle of water and some food. Obi took it with shaking hands. "Thank you, my son," he said, tears gathering in his eyes. That night, under the stars, Obi ate his small meal and whispered his prayers again. "My God, I have nothing left, but I still have hope." He didn't know that miles away, his daughters were planning something that would change his life forever. He didn't know that the seeds he planted with sweat and tears were about to bear sweet fruits. All he knew was to wait, to believe, to endure, because love never gives up. Love never loses hope. And Obi's love, pure, selfless, and unwavering, was about to be rewarded in a way he never imagined. The sun blazed hot that afternoon. Obi sat by his tiny shoemaking table in the market, bent over a torn sandal. His eyes had grown weaker. His hands trembled more often now. The Obi who once stood tall was now a frail shadow of himself. He had heard nothing from Kamsi and Kachi for a long time. Phone calls were rare, sometimes letters too. But he understood they were busy building their dreams. Still, a small voice inside him whispered, "They will come back, Obi. They will remember you." He believed it, even though the world had long forgotten him. That day, as he stitched the sandal with slow, tired hands, he heard a commotion at the entrance of the market. Traders rushed out, their voices full of excitement. "Look at this beautiful car. Look at this luxury car. Who brought this type of luxury car to the market?" Obi didn't lift his head. Rich people passed through the market all the time. It was none of his business. But then, he heard footsteps, strong, sure footsteps coming closer. And then, he heard a voice he could never forget. "Daddy." He froze. Slowly, he looked up. Two young women stood before him. Tall, glowing, breathtaking, beautiful. One was wearing a blue suit, the other a white dress. Their hair was neatly packed. Their shoes shone. Their smiles could melt mountains. It took Obi a moment to recognize them. "Kamsi," he whispered. "Kachi." Tears welled up in his old eyes. His daughters, his babies, were standing before him, no longer children, but proud women, strong, elegant, successful. Before he could say a word, they dropped to their knees right there in the dust of the market. They held his rough, calloused hands and kissed them, their tears falling freely. "Daddy, we are sorry we stayed away for so long," Kamsi said, her voice shaking. "But we never forgot you," Kachi added. "Every day, you were in our hearts." Obi was crying now, big heavy tears that rolled down his sunken cheeks. "My queens," he whispered, "my stars, you came back." They nodded through their own tears. "We are doctors now, Daddy," Kamsi said. "We graduated top of our classes," Kachi added. "And we are here to take you home." Home? Obi didn't understand. They smiled and helped him to his feet. Waiting outside the market was a brand new black SUV, shining like a dream. People in the market gathered, whispering and pointing. Obi stood by the car, confused. Kamsi opened the door and handed him a small velvet box. Inside was a car key. "For you, Daddy," she said softly. "And that's not all," Kachi said, holding up another envelope. Inside the envelope were the papers to a beautiful new house, a house they had bought for him. No leaking roof, no cracked walls, no broken windows. A real home. Obi couldn't speak. His legs shook. His heart beat wildly. He thought he was dreaming. "Your suffering is over, Daddy," Kamsi whispered. "You gave us everything. Now it's our turn." Obi fell to his knees on the hot pavement, raising his hands to the sky. "Thank you, God," he wept. "Thank you for not letting my labor be in vain." The crowd cheered. Some people wiped tears from their eyes. Even those who once mocked him now clapped their hands in admiration. Obi stood, taller than he had in years, not because of the car, not because of the house, but because he was the richest man in the world, the father of two queens who loved him more than life itself. They opened the car. He entered. The SUV cruised through the streets of Onitsha, heading toward the outskirts where a quiet estate stood. Obi sat between his two daughters, feeling like he was floating in a dream. He looked out the window in wonder. The tarred roads, the clean environments, the big houses that looked like places. Surely this could not be for him, but it was real. When they arrived at the gate of a beautiful white house with a red roof, Kamsi smiled and said, "Daddy, welcome home." Kachi jumped out quickly, running to open the door for him. Obi stepped out slowly, staring at the house. It had big windows, strong walls, flower gardens, and a wide veranda. He rubbed his eyes to be sure he was not dreaming. "My house?" he asked in a whisper. "Yes, Daddy," Kamsi said. "You suffered too much for us. You lost everything because of us. Now, let us give you everything." They led him inside. The living room was painted cream and gold, with soft leather chairs. There was a big TV, a sparkling chandelier, and beautiful curtains that danced with the breeze. Obi placed his hand on his chest. It was too much, too beautiful. Tears ran down his cheeks, but this time they were tears of joy. Later, they showed him his room. It was the biggest room in the house. The bed was soft and wide. The air smelled of roses. On the wall, they had placed a big frame, a picture of Obi, Kamsi, and Kachi smiling together, frozen in a perfect moment of happiness. Obi sat on the bed and covered his face with his hands. "Thank you, God," he whispered. "You gave me daughters, and through them, you have given me a life again." That evening, they all sat on the veranda, eating, laughing, and sharing stories of the past. Neighbors passed by and greeted them warmly. Some of them had once mocked Obi, but now they looked at him with respect. Obi leaned back on his chair, watching the sunsets. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace. True peace. He realized that true wealth was not money or houses. It was love. It was sacrifice. It was family. And he had all three. As the stars filled the sky, Obi smiled. His journey had been hard, but it had led him to a beautiful ending. A home not built by bricks alone, but by the unbreakable love between a father and his daughters.